It's 10 a.m. right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday episode of Business Morning, which promises 55 minutes of business conversations that concern you. So let's begin with what's going on in the oil space. Prices rose by 1% today, clawing back more of last week's losses as investors focus on tight supplies of crude and fuel products rather than concerns about a recession dampening demand going forward. Brent crude futures rose by $1.08 to $115.25 a barrel, adding to a 0.9% gain yesterday. The benchmark contract fell 7.3% last week in its first weekly fall in 5. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures for July, which expires later on today, rose to $112.01 a barrel. That's up $2.45 from Friday. The more active WTI contract for August was up $2.12 at $110.11 a barrel. And still within that space, the West African Gas Pipeline Company Limited, WAPCO, a limited liability company that owns and operates the West African Gas Pipeline, has marked 10 years since it started commercial operation. WAPCO says it is taking steps to expand and develop huge gas resources across the region. Nigeria's major participation in the establishment of the project was aimed at reducing gas flaring, utilize and monetize natural gas.
Federal government's policy that declared gas as the transition fuel and 2022 as the beginning of the decade for gas, the country has keyed into a regional energy integration through natural gas supply, running from Nigeria into 3 African countries. It's been 10 years of commercial operation for the West African Gas Pipeline Company, the public-private partnership delivering natural gas across 4 countries, and they want to celebrate themselves.
In the room.
WAPCO says it is an efficient and dependable natural gas transporter to customers in Benin, Togo, and Ghana, supporting safe, cleaner, efficient, long-term, and secure power generation from gas supply sources in both Nigeria and Ghana.
I must, without fail, appreciate my team, the one WAPCO family here in Nigeria, at our facilities in Otoki, Acacia, and our Lagos Beach compressor station, for your belief in the WAPCO vision.
Over 9 million man-hours have been achieved without any recordable injury or loss. It means some workers had to be rewarded.
Our result is to boost gas utilization across all value chain. And this underpins our naming the decade as the decade of gas. The work is a large part of this drive, and we will do all we can to ensure it reaches its full potential.
The Group Executive Director Gas, NNPC Limited, sits as the board chairman. He speaks to the successes.
WAPCO have gone through a series of challenges, but we indeed have seen it by the side. Due to the resilience of the management team, the members of staff of the team, and indeed the support from the board of directors, both those who were in the past boards and present, to ensure that the success of WAPCO has enshrined its objective while it's being set up is achieved.
What's the future for WAPCO?
We have recently entered into discussions with the effort here in Nigeria, in Morocco, in terms of the Nigerian to Morocco gas pipeline. As they are looking at that vision, how do we collaborate and be synergies with them?
If you're looking for a poster child for regional economy and energy integration, WAPCO says they fit that billing.
Let's talk branding now. Brand Africa, renowned organization, recently recognized and celebrated corporates that have stood out in their operations and branding. Glad to say that yours truly, Channels Television, was recognized as the most admired media brand in the country. We would say congratulations once again, but I will not blow just our trumpet today. Today we celebrate another brand, Dangote. Dangote won 8 in 8 categories that brand Africa for this year. And then we have to blow their own trumpet. The Group Chief Branding and Communication Officer for Dangote Group, Anthony Chejina. Mr. Chejina, thank you so much. Well, we've been talking to you behind the scene. And I guess having 8 awards has finally brought you to the fore of the camera.
Wow.
Well, from one winner to another, I would like to say congratulations to Dangote.
And congratulations to you as well, too, for
Thank
winning.
you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So, I mean, for you guys, you've retained that first position, I think, for 5 years now?
5 years, yeah. Sure.
So
back
how,
to back.
Yeah, back to back. And we know that when you are at the top there, you do have a lot of competition, a lot of people be trying to take that
the space.
Yeah. So how have you been able to retain that position? I mean, so we can also get from that and retain our own position also.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, looking at the brand itself, you know, the Dangote brand, you know, it's an outstanding brand, you know. And if you look at the category, it's #1 brand in Africa, #1 brand in Nigeria, also #1 brand in terms of building Africa, and #1 brand in terms of bringing pride, you know, to Africa. So it's both national and continental. And what must inform them is the focus of the company, what we believe in, the commitment of the chief branding officer, which I said is my boss, Aliko Dangote, and what he believes in, you know, his self-belief, nothing is impossible as far as he's concerned. So at the heart of that nothing is impossible is quality and people having value. So if you look at our products, for instance, cement, from country to country in Africa, I've been to almost like 18 countries. We operate in 10 countries and 4 more coming on board. In the 10 countries, each time I travel from one African country to the other, I feel so happy and so proud to see Dangote cement dotting the streets of either Maputo, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Zambia, Cameroon, Senegal, even Mali, Burkina Faso. So it gives us that sense of pride that an African is doing something by an African. And at the same time, too, it's at the heart of what he believes in, pulling people away from poverty. It's also the heart of industrializing the continent. It's also talking, not only talking, but also doing self-sufficiency, you know, and also self-determination. We have to take control of the resources we have. They talk about Africa having commodities, and I mean, it's like talking about, you know, you have a brilliant child and that child is homeless. So it makes no sense. So he is the one in terms of leading the vanguard of industrialization.
Yeah, you know, even from what you have said, it sounds difficult to differentiate between Dangote, the brand, and Dangote, the man.
The man, yeah.
Is there a difference?
Yeah, the thing is that it's the brand icon. And that is the spirit. We're all living his vision. So that's the man with the vision, and that is what he believes in, and that's what is driving him in anything he does. And all of us, we have to key into that system. For instance, our Bajana plant, you know, the first line was commissioned in 2006. And before then, in 2002, Nigeria was producing 2 million metric tons. But today, it's 35.5 million metric tons we are producing. So in Africa, it's 51.6. So we have ramped it up. You can imagine, within a space of 20 years, producing 2 million or less than 2 million metric tons. So we have moved up to 35.3 million metric tons.
Okay.
And at the same time in Africa too, we moved up to 51.6. So that is the thing, because he has the vision, he has the drive. So, and that is why all of us are keen into it. And you feel so happy when you go to other African countries, the way heads of sales, and also Africans, you know, praise him for his determination, for his courage, and for his belief in Africa. And that is why we collected such an award. And we have done it in so many areas. So at the same time, so it tells you that what I may call the inevitability of Nigeria's ascendancy into global, space. So no matter how difficult the condition is, yes.
So, Mr. Chejina, because we do know that when we talk about Nigerian-made products, a lot of times there's this sentiment of, weariness, being cautious because of lack of trust in the quality.
Yeah.
So tell us, as Dangote, how you've been able to overcome this hurdle, so much so that you have penetrated markets outside the country.
Yes, two things. One, we have the best technology, especially in cement. And the mantra is quality, value. And that has made it possible for us to penetrate all African countries. And wherever we go, they tell us that our quality is the best. See it. Be it Ethiopia, be it Zambia. So, and that is why we don't joke with our products.
But how do you deal
quality.
with the perception, Having a good product is one thing, but convincing people, convincing them that you actually have a good product is also another thing.
Yes, I agree with you, but it's the way you present the message. See it. And at the same time, the way you weave the messaging is very, very key. For instance, for me, media is everything in pushing this kind of message. See it. And number two, as Marshall McLuhan would say, the medium is the message. The medium you use to convey the message is also very, very important. And that is what we have done over the years, to make sure that we weave the story in a very intelligent, compelling, and convincing way. So, and that has made people to believe in us. And not only that, it has to be consistent. You don't relent. Yes, it's like an everyday affair. So, and once you keep pushing in that message into the psyche of the people, and they test it and they see it, they'll have faith in that product. They'll have trust in that product. And it's not an easy process, but it's something that is doable. And that's what we have done over the years. Okay,
and then, of course, you had the fertilizer. You also bombarded us with the fertilizer. Now it's working. How far? What's the supply? Was the, the reach and the demand?
The reach has been so fantastic. See, and with what is going on, in global politics, see that we have rising demand from EU countries, from Asia, from Latin America, from United States. So the demand is high. And also in the sub-region, Benin, Ghana, Togo, Cameroon, Senegal. So we have so much demand of the product.
And at the same time, will not forget home. Now that you have a lot of demand, you have a lot of demand from outside the country. I hope you will not forget the domestic.
No, we don't, because we also emphasize the domestic, be it Kano, Kaduna, Port Harcourt, Owerri, Aba, Sokoto, Kebbi. So our products are there. And one other thing that is resonating very, very high is also the quality of the fertilizer. See it. All of them are so happy about it, and that's what they are saying. And that's what we are known for in all our products. We don't joke with it. The quality is good, and that is why they can trust us. And that is why when we are crafting our messaging, so it goes with these particular elements.
And then, of course, we have the refinery. I mean, at the moment in Lagos, not just in Lagos, I think almost in most states of the country at this time, we have the queues are back.
Yeah.
And Ipman, the oil marketers are saying that, well, it doesn't look like 650 naira can be sustained, as a pump price. So we're going back to the issue of refinery because of subsidy and all of that. And Nigerians are really hopeful and looking on to Dangote. Dangote seems to be the same. So I do hope that Dangote, Nigerians are really looking forward to at least the inputs of refined products, petroleum products from Dangote.
See, let me tell you, that is the game changer. And we are coasting home very well. Sooner or later, the people will see it. Now, what we are doing is pre-commissioning stage. So the operations people are on ground, making sure that the commissioning, system by system commissioning, is what we are doing to ensure that everything falls into line. So we are coasting home very well. And I'll also tell you the same thing concerning the quality. The quality of our products, we can match it. Euro 5, and that is the best we provide. And that is why the brand will continue to resonate and occupy that position as the leading brand in Africa. And also in terms of, people talk about refinery, because that's our immediate. But the main one, the sweetener, what I call the sweetener is the petrochemical, the 900,000 metric tons per annum of polypropylene. That is the sweetener. That is where you have the labor sponge. Labor sponge in the way that the absorptive capacity is very high. I mean, you can see it traversing the textile industry, paint industry, plastics. See it. Almost everything here is made of plastics. So, and also will help the country conserve foreign exchange and pull people out of poverty and also create jobs for so many people and conserve FX. So that will help also support different industrial and infrastructural projects, in Nigeria and also in Africa. So this refinery is not only serving Nigeria, also Africa as well too. And if I were to go by what is going on, in Ukraine and Russia, you can see that we are just on course. What Aliko Dangote has been preaching: self-sufficiency, industrialization, self-determination, and the self-reliance, or what people talk about, in terms of diversification of economy and backward integration. And that is what he has been preaching and also doing. So the agency is very, very strong now, given what is happening. For any nation to develop, that self-sufficiency strategy and self-reliance is very, very important. And that has won us the admiration of so many countries in Africa.
And the award that we are celebrating today.
Exactly.
For the 5th time.
For the 5th time.
But tell me, you are the Chief Branding Officer of Dangote. How do you sell oil at a time when the world is talking about clean energy, renewable energy? How do you sell and celebrate oil at a time like this?
We have that in mind too. I mean, look at what is going on in the country. Most homes are now without electricity. We know the need for clean energy. We are not saying that it's wrong, no. But it has to be phase by phase. That is it. So we're on it now, and what is going on, and even what is going on globally. You see countries like Germany, you see them relying on coal. Coal, they almost phase out. So they are going back to coal. So we are still on course. We believe in clean energy, and we'll do everything also to support it.
All right, Mr. Anthony Chejina, Chief Branding and Communication Officer, Dangote Group. Mr. Chejina, I must tell you, has been communicating with a lot of media, but you would not show his face, so we are glad to bring the face to the fore this morning. And congratulations once again to Dangote.
Yes.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much,
we'll be here to celebrate you.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll take a break now. After that break, we'll go into our commodity segment. We'll just have to have a short conversation on that. Channels Television. You're welcome back. Well, I think one of the very pressing needs at this time in the country is the return of queues at filling stations. You and I feel it, so it's not just a news. And then the operators, especially the oil marketers, are saying that the current price is not sustainable. Earlier, we told you about what's going on in the oil space. Well, oil this morning is about 115, but we know that last week it went as high as 123. Nigeria is an oil-producing country, but unfortunately, almost everything that is consumed here is being imported. That means that we have to pay that subsidy, and that is the crux of the matter. But we have Dumebi Oluwole joining us now, analyst with financial derivatives. Hi, Dumebi, good to have you.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. How was the road coming here?
It was a morning. Really tough. I mean, like you rightly said, it's like fuel scarcity is back, and a lot of queues at filling stations. It's quite a tough thing to experience when going to work or when getting back home. And like you rightly mentioned, it's just a direct chain from what is happening globally to what people are feeling here in Nigeria. So with oil prices still very high, and the main factors driving, you know, the increase in oil prices, because marketers are really, the markets generally are pricing, or generally sentiments are still geared towards the tight supply. So even though OPEC now is, you know, releasing about like 600, a little over 600,000 barrels per day. The sanctions on Russian oil are still having an impact. Demand is not as much. We're seeing summer demand from the US taper, which is very rare. Normally during summer, the price of, you know, the demand for gasoline usually increases, and that, you know, fuels the the United States demand for oil as well. But right now, that demand is beginning to decline. But generally, the sentiments are towards tight supply, and that is what is keeping prices very high. And the higher oil prices, the more our import costs on petroleum products like PMS, diesel, aviation fuel, and we're seeing that happen across.
I guess aviation fuel, I mean, they've been talking for a while. I remember, I think twice now, airline operators have threatened to down tool, and now I think aviation fuel is about 800, more than 800.
No, it's about like 710.
Okay, 710. Okay,
yes.
All right. And then we thought that was going to affect just a handful of people, you know, the people who were elite who travel by air. But now it's come on land, and it's affecting even your everyday journey to work. What are talks going on? I know that I think Ipman have said that the current price is not sustainable. Have you heard of anything?
I mean, for fuel now, that's PMS that everybody, petrol that everybody uses. The concern there is that fuel subsidies are becoming unsustainable. The IMF had come out to say that Nigeria's fuel subsidy was going to likely increase to 6 trillion this year, and meanwhile we budgeted for 4 trillion
already, which we were borrowing to fund.
They were borrowing to fund, and remember that Nigeria tried to raise an additional $950 million dollars at the worth of Eurobonds at international markets, but we had to suspend that decision because investors are pricing in the risk of, number one, the fact that this is a pre-election year, and the chances of a debt default from the country. So they're asking for higher yields that the country would not be able to pay for in a few years' time. So we had to suspend that. So clearly, the federal government is cash trapped right now, and the NNPC, if you look at the trend, the NNPC has not remitted anything to FAC this year. So that already tells you a lot about how what is going on in that space. So clearly, people, this is a trend that we would likely see continue because we're spending so much on importation, and yet price of oil continues to increase. When we look at aviation fuel, that is another different dynamics. Yes, there is the fact that aviation fuel is a major running cost for airlines, but there are other factors affecting their operations. For an airline, already it has been established that it's a low profit margin business, and every time, as long as you have an aircraft, you are already paying costs whether or not you fly. So and unfortunately, unlike a manufacturer that can quickly pass on the burden of increased costs to consumers in terms of higher prices, airlines cannot really do that, because imagine increasing flight ticket from the already existing price floor of 50,000 to maybe 120,000. Remember that when there was the initial issue of aviation fuel increase, there was already that conversation, and the AON had already said that the actual price for a seat on an airplane is actually 120,000, but they could not do that because demand was going to definitely fall. So they are really in a tight corner.
Everyone is in a tight corner, because even the federal government is in a tight corner. They cannot just do away with subsidy as IMF advised, because I mean, we know the rippling effect it will have, and you know, income doesn't just go up like that.
As much as cost of living.
Exactly. Well, I think we have to stop it there for now. Dumebi Oluwole, analyst with Financial Derivatives. Thank you so much. We do hope by the time you're here on Thursday, the situation would have improved and we'll have some positive, I don't know where to come from, some positive news about it.
Hopefully.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming.
you.
All right, so moving on now, the Federal Economic Executive Council has selected and approved a seedling sample to be planted by farmers in the 36 states of the country. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Export Promotion Council is emphasizing its commitment to boost agricultural productions as an alternative source of revenue to the national purse. At the core of this effort is boosting food production. That's why we'll have that conversation right after this break. Welcome back. So let's have that food production conversation with Tunde Banjoko. He's the managing director of Banjoko Motunde Farms now. Good morning, Mr. Banjoko. Well, unfortunately, you were supposed to be in the studio, but the realities of our time stopped you.
Wow, I tried.
I know. Well, let's talk about boosting food production. We hear a lot of effort by the government, even by the Central Bank of Nigeria. As a farmer, which of them have you benefited from?
Oh, okay. In all honesty, we participated in one of the Anchor Bora scheme, and we took, 2.5 million. I think that was last year. So to support our processing in Ogun State. So I benefited from that.
So,
did you hear me, Ini?
Yes, I heard you. I heard you say you benefited from the Anchor Borrowers program, because some farmers have said that as beautiful and promising as some of these plans and strategies are, accessing it could be difficult or challenging, but that's not your experience, I guess.
And that's my experience. It wasn't easy because, if you look at the scheme I applied for, we were asked to apply. We applied in 2018, December 2018, and we were told about 2-3 months after, the facility will be ready. We were promised 10 million for processing and production, but 3 years, or that's 3 years after, we got 2.5 million. After several reviews, changing policy and all that. So I will still say the process is still a bit cumbersome. It's not that straightforward. And it's something that, a lot of people that we even started the processing together had to pull out along the line. So it's still a bit tedious. It can be reviewed to be much more easier and accessible for people.
Would you say that, in the face of food insecurity, or the threat of food insecurity, which has been exacerbated by the war going on in Ukraine, would you say that this is a major constraint to boosting food production in Nigeria, or are there other factors that are mitigating this boosting of production?
Looking at, the effect of the Russia-Ukraine war, February 24, the military invasion by Russia into Ukraine started, and that affected us because for us as a nation, for example, we produce less than 2% of the grains we import in terms of maize, especially wheat. 30% of the world wheat is from Russia and Ukraine. 20% of our maize, of the world maize, is from Russia and Ukraine. For us in Nigeria, for example, we consume about 6 million tons of wheat, and we produce less than 100,000. We just increased from 55,000 to 99,000. So to say, the least, the effect is much, and we are still not doing as much as we can do as a nation. So it's really a challenging time. We are not doing our best as a nation. And I think it calls for review at this critical time.
So what should we be doing? You're a farmer. What should we be doing?
Okay, so like I said, we need 6 million metric tons of wheat, for example. We are producing about 99,000. So what we should be doing first, we should be investing more as a nation. The private sector should also invest more. I love what the CBN is doing at the moment. The CBN, at least this year, they are pumping about 42 billion to cultivate about 312,000 hectares to increase our production to about 400,000 tons. And that's laudable. That's what we should be doing as individuals now And that's what we should be doing, even as a nation now. When we look at the numbers, looking at what we spent on importation of wheat, for example, in 2020, we spent close to 787 billion. In 2021, between January and September, we spent about 898 billion on wheat importation alone. In 2021, we spent about 721 million on milk importation. So that's telling us what we should be doing as a nation and as individuals is to start investing in those commodities that is taking our foreign exchange and causing some of the pains and hardship. It's bringing pressure on our foreign reserve, on the currency. And so that's what I believe we should be doing now as a nation. We should look at all those crops that we've been spending a lot importing. We should start cultivating them locally because we have all it takes to do them.
Yeah, so we have all it takes. We have the effort by the CBN. We have the one from the federal government. What's really stopping us? We've seen a lot of countries at this time, especially since the war started. We've seen food protectionism. We've seen crop protectionism. We've seen countries actually strategize, to ensure that there's food for their people. So we know what our problems are. We have talked about solutions. What's stopping the implementation? We have the land. We do have infrastructure to an extent. What's stopping us, really?
By what you said, Enid, what's stopping us, I think, is the political will that we are now lacking. Let's look at the amount we spend on. I'll pick on those two products that we largely import from Russia and Ukraine. Looking at how much we spend on importing wheat and how much we spend importing maize as a nation. If that same money, if we have, is even at times more than what is budgeted for agriculture. We are budgeting about 291 billion for the entire agri industry, and we are spending over close to 900 billion importing wheat alone in a year. So meaning we must have the political will. And you know why? I was involved in some conversation with some farmers in Jigawa, for example, and they were talking about even some of the meager amount that is being budgeted for some of these crops do not get to the real farmers. So those are the things stopping us. When we look at the budgeting is, even though it's not enough, but if that which has been budgeted will still get to the real farmers. And so that talks about the monitoring and evaluation process. That has to really be looked into. If the money that is budgeted can get to those that needs it for production, then some of the issues we are having, some of the numbers we are contending with will start changing. So that's what I think is a major thing. And then there has to be some measure of comfort for investors. A private investor wants to come into a sector and be sure that whatever they are bringing on board is going to come back to them. So anybody coming into the system wants to be assured of stability. Before, for example, Borno State used to be our highest producer of wheat, giving us about 40%. But because of the insecurity now in Borno State, Jigawa has picked up. And most of these commodities we are talking about today, they come from the northeast and the northwest, where they are really battling the security situation in Nigeria. So the political will is there. And then let's review the monitoring and the evaluation and the way the means these things are being disbursed. I've always advocated and I've always spoken that I believe it should be a public-private partnership project where the government is designing. They are also working in sync with the private sectors, and things can be properly evaluated. The money can get to those who need it, and the country will be better off for it. So I think it's the political will, and the processes should be reviewed. That's my thought.
Yeah, and well, it looks like even that political will at this time, when election is just around the corner, has even been diverted even more to politicking at this time.
So governance seems to be absent for now. And then when you also look at it, we talk about the federal government. Most of the state government, what are they doing about agriculture? Most of the local government, what are they doing about agriculture? So if we keep focusing on the federal, the center, then we'll be limited. And that's what we need to encourage the private sector to come into the space and to change the numbers and all we are experiencing at the moment.
All right, Mr. Tunde Banjoko, thank you so much, Managing Director of Omotunde Banjoko Farms. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. We do hope that, well, even in the midst of the politicking, that food security will get some attention.
It will be. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ine, for having me.
Thank you, too. Well, just before we go on a break, let's see how the market traded yesterday. Sentiments haven't changed. Domestic bonds kicked off the week on a negative note. Profit-taking continues. Yesterday was huge on Dangote cement. It lost 10% and caused a 2% decline in the benchmark index. The NGX has gone down to 50,756. And 27,000, we've gone from 28 trillion naira to 27,000. Looking at the total volume now, it's declined by 43% to 345 million units, valued at 3.07 billion naira, exchanging just over 5,000 deals. So the value dropped yesterday. And then in sectors, wow, the banking sector recovered yesterday. That's very unusual. We have Rotimi Fakayejo now. He's a stockbroker, to tell us how the banking did it. Good morning, Mr. Fakayejo. Mr. Fakayejo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
All right, awesome. So we see that banking has recovered. It's been like a week of negative trade, and they recovered yesterday. What happened?
Well, I think investors are just beginning to reassess the value in that sector. Left to me, in terms of return on investment and dividend yield, the banking sector still stands tall among all other sectors. But because of the large number of shares in issue with respect to that particular sector, that is why we are seeing a downward trend. And more so for the fact that the other sectors have not really been doing well in the last, the other sectors have not really been doing well since about 4 trading days now, with the likes of MTN, the likes of Airtel, and also Dangote Cement. And also, we should bear in mind that these three sectors affect the market very, very seriously, because the total market capitalization of those three stocks is about 60% of the entire market capitalization. We have Airtel at over 6 trillion, MTN at over 4 trillion, and Dangote Cement at over 4 trillion. So whatever happens to any of these ones is definitely going to impact negatively on the entire market. So what we are seeing is not surprising. There may be some adjustment in those sectors, but we are going to see the prices strengthened again by the time we begin to see the Q2 results in early July. So I don't really think investors may really have much to say, because there is value embedded in all of these stocks.
Well, now that banking seems to be, I don't know if to say it's recovering, because it might just be investors buying the dip. And if it's recovering now, then, profit taking might just come back again and hunt it down.
Well, I don't think there will be much significant improvement in their prices. I don't think we may have up to about 10% in a go for a particular stock. So that definitely will not invite sell-off or profit taking. But what I expect to happen right now is for those prices to be consolidated. GT not coming below 20, Zenith not coming below 21.50, as we have seen, and Access Bank not coming below 9 naira. So with all those prices at that particular level, and the propensity for them to actually go up again with the upside that is still available, I believe strongly that the market is going to be the better for it. Knowing fully well also that investors may not necessarily want to sell their shares in those banks, the likes of Access, GT Co, Zenith, UBA, and Stanbic that be paying interim dividend. So they want to hold on to those stocks in order for them to be able to enjoy the dividend, and also for the jumbo dividend that will be coming next year in March.
All right, Mr. Rotimi Fakaijo, very optimistic there, even though we have lost 53 or 54,000 level, but I'm sure we'll get it back. Thank you so much, and happy trading today.
Thank you.
Let's take a break. After the break, we'll head to London. This is Business Morning on Channels Television.
They don't get you. Your black people don't get you. I talk am. You see what you cause? Don't see am now. See my mates. See times. Yes.
All right. Why you dey loud your voice?
Why not go loud my voice? Eh? See my mates. I pay this man money to carry my mates. See.
Me, I don't come on this level. Now, effects I dey take by my mates now through their ComX app.
Eh.
That are the new way to trade.
Eh.
See. Make I show you something. ComX dey very easy and straightforward to use. I fit even apply for loan where I go take by mates where I go use. No bank wahala, no driver palava. I beg open your ear.
I beg, make I carry my phone.
Download the ComX app today. The coolest way to trade.
Free my people.
Oga, I bet this ComX is the explain for that man. You please send down for me the link for WhatsApp.
You're welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television. We head to London now. Well, in Nigeria, we're seeing queues at filling stations causing hold-up and traffic. But in the United Kingdom, the strike going on in the rail sector. And Juliana, good morning. I wonder how you got to the office this morning. How was your experience?
Good morning, Innie. My experience was not that bad, I've got to say. A bit of a combination of my husband dropping me to the station and then, of course, using some intelligence by a trusted employee that was able to tell me that one line was working, the £60 billion Elizabeth line. It won't be working for the entire day, but at least I managed to get into the office. And of course, that isn't the case for millions of workers across the UK, because as we've been discussing, Britain has been hit by the biggest rail strike in about 30 years. So from today, Thursday and on Saturday, there will be a very limited amount of trains. And if you are living in London or you're a viewer watching from London, perhaps you're lucky enough to be working from home, you've got a double whammy, because we know that TfL are also striking. This is a long-running dispute between the Transport Ministry, Grant Shapps is heading that, and the RMT union headed by Mike Lynch. They're really not happy about pay, about the conditions of their job, and also just their ongoing discussions with the government. It's definitely turned into a public row and a spat that I think is going to lead to more strikes over the summer. People are calling this the summer of discontent, which is reminiscent of the winter of discontent in the late 70s, where we saw industrial action across several industries, not just transport. And that's the fear over the next coming months, because there is so much anger, so much frustration about the cost of living. There were actually protests in central London over the weekend, and we are expecting more people to pick up borders and go straight to the front of the picket line. So we are expecting perhaps teachers to strike. We're also expecting NHS workers to strike, and even lawyers, and this is all about pay. But going back to today's situation, it did feel at some times reminiscent of the lockdown, where of course millions of people were working from home. If you are a viewer or you listen to the British media, you would think it was an apocalyptic stage that we were entering this week. It doesn't appear to have been that way at the moment, but there are serious consequences, because there are people, Innie, that were hoping to take exams today. They may not be able to take them. We know the NHS is dealing with a backlog from patients waiting for pretty serious treatments. Some some life-saving treatments like cancer treatments, they've had to cancel their appointments. So it's certainly a mess, and it's definitely something that Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, and the Transport Secretary have to get their hands on. There was an emergency cabinet meeting this morning, some suggestions from Kwasi Kwarteng, the Business Secretary, that perhaps Britain will try to change the law so that if there is industrialised nations such as this, they will be able to bring in agency staff that can do the work of the train drivers. But that is not good news for union bosses who think that if you do that, then what's the point of having a union? So it is an ongoing spat. We are going to be out and about in King's Cross Station in the afternoon for Biz Inc. Hopefully we'll be able to talk to somebody. Hopefully we'll be able to kind of muster up what the scene is. But we will be out and about trying to report exactly what's going on. But this is day one. So today was good. Let's hope tomorrow.
Let's hope tomorrow is good for you, Juliana, because we do need you out there to be our eyes and ears, you know, and bring it up there. Well, there are also talks about several UK airlines borrowing European aircraft. What's that?
Yeah, this is a really interesting story, actually, one that I'm sure wasn't pleasant reading for the Prime Minister, who thinks that Brexit is done, nothing to see here apart from the Northern Ireland Protocol. But if you are one of the tens of thousands of people who've been trying to get some summer sun or some cooling away from the heat wave in Britain, you would have seen that there's an absolute mess at airports at the moment. Hundreds upon hundreds of flights have been cancelled. We had that last-minute announcement yesterday from Heathrow bosses asking airlines to cancel 10% of flights because of a baggage issue. But now what we're hearing is that airline bosses are saying one of the reasons why they don't have enough staff to man these aircraft and to make sure people can get through the terminals safely is because of Brexit and the fact that laws had changed during the Brexit transition. That means it's very difficult for them to hire European staff. So they have started doing wet leasing, which basically means that airlines such as British Airways, TUI, EasyJet, Ryanair, rather than using a British craft, which would mean if they had European staff, they could only work on that craft if they have a British visa, they are now leasing European craft. So if the craft that British Airways is using belongs to a European carrier, anybody working on that craft doesn't have to have a British passport or a British visa. It is highly complicated, but this is the only way bosses are able to get out of this issue, which is causing complete chaos for holiday makers. So Brexit, even though it's supposed to be done, dusted and over, is still causing so many complications.
Yes, Juliana, that's a complicated situation there. And Brexit just keeps bringing up different aspects of it. Well, we'll talk to you in the afternoon, and looking forward to that sight and sound from the roads and the strike and the updates on that in the afternoon.
Thanks, Ine.
Let's go to the crypto space now, where Ladi is standing by. I don't think he has better news for us.
Yeah, as you said earlier, it's still a boring market, but you know, some traders love boring markets.
How do you have fair greed index
still at 9
stay the same in 24 hours?
Yeah,
That's
it's still
boring.
the same thing because the market is still very much afraid at this point. It's still extreme fear. It'll be interesting to see this market in greed again. Looking forward to that. We know this market's actually work in cycles. See the market cap there is up about 5.25%. Volume traded in the total crypto space is down about 3.92% this morning, and Bitcoin dominance sits at 43.44%. We see Bitcoin there having that interesting bounce, you know, from that low we saw over the weekend. Now trading up about 6% at $21,159 and showing some momentum in the market. We see traders getting their skin into some of these altcoins, and the altcoins actually looking pretty good this morning, but there's still fear in this market at this point. Price of Ethereum, they're up about 7.57%. Talking about fear now, let's bring in Rume Ofi now, financial market analyst. Hello, Rume.
Good morning, Ladi. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Rume. And I know you are one of my most optimistic analysts out there, whichever, if it's a bear market, whatever, you are still hyped for this market. And I see BlackRock, one of the top asset managers in the world, is also saying Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are durable and they're still going to rise at some point. How are you seeing that?
Yes, that's a very good feedback coming from an asset manager like BlackRock. Actually, BlackRock is very huge in asset management. They're up about $10 trillion, right, in asset management. So it shows some level of credibility that these guys have seen a lot of things going on. And there's something about this whole thing that went on. The CI, the chief investment officer, which is Rick Ryder, said that it's durable. And that's the fact. People need to understand it. But there's something he said at some point. He said that people should look beyond just 1 year, 2-3 years, thereabout. And the fact that Bitcoin actually bounced back after this dump, we saw the 17,000, that low, and it came back. Now it's up about 4%. It only shows that this has a capacity to withstand all of the possible shock that is going on in the economy, macro economy. So it's more to also say that it is also a safe haven, it's an alternative to what is going on. We've seen tech stock go down 80%, blah, 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 but it still has the opportunity to come back as against all what is going on in the economy. I think it's a welcome development and also an inspiration for those that are actually looking for quick fix to make quick money, to know that this is a long-term game.
Long-term game. No quick money in any asset right now, Rome. Anyway, thank you so much, Rome. Always good to have your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ladi.
All right, now looking at the top auto market cap, we see it's all green there with BNB up about 8%. Looking good. We see Celsius there. That one had some insolvency issues last week, but we're seeing some hope. See investors piling into that one. Is up about 129% this morning at $1.50. So we're seeing investors getting really excited at this point. Time will tell if this excitement will actually continue. That's it, Ini.
Yeah, well, time will certainly tell. All markets, time will tell. We'll survive this. Thank you so much, Ladi. Thank you for the update from the crypto space. Well, that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We'll be here again tomorrow, God's grace. I'm Ini John Mekwa. But do remember, 1:30, Business Incorporated will be here. And one of the things to look out for is to get visuals from UK and the strike going on in that country. Join us then. I'm Ini John Mekwa.